There are moments in life when everything on the outside seems to move as it always has, and yet, somewhere within you, something quietly begins to shift. You are still you, but the way you feel the world, the way you see people, and even the way you face yourself no longer feels quite the same. Some things that once felt important now seem a little more distant. Some emotions that used to be clear are now harder to name. And if you're listening to this right now, you may have found yourself wondering, is this just a passing phase? Or could it be a sign that something deeper is slowly taking shape? There's no need to rush for an answer. Just allow yourself to pause for a moment and listen to what's unfolding within you. Because the moment you begin to notice that shift is often the moment the real story starts to open. There are times in life when everything around you seems exactly the same. The same roads, the same rhythm, the same familiar faces, and yet, somewhere deep within, you begin to feel a difference you can't quite explain. It's not a shock, it's not a major turning point, just a subtle feeling. Like walking into a familiar room, but somehow, the light has changed. You're still doing the things you've always done. Still talking, still smiling, still moving through your daily life. But something in the way you respond no longer feels the same. Things that once held your thoughts for hours now seem to pass more gently, like a breeze that no longer has the strength to hold you in place. Conversations that once made you feel connected suddenly feel distant. As if you're standing just slightly apart, but enough to realize you're no longer on the same frequency. And maybe you've paused for a moment and quietly asked yourself, am I changing, or am I just feeling out of place? That question doesn't need an immediate answer, because sometimes simply noticing that difference is already a sign in itself. This shift isn't here to make you feel lost. It's more like an undercurrent. Not loud, not rushed, but patiently guiding you into deeper layers of who you are. You begin to see things differently, not with doubt, but with a deeper sense of understanding. Not by pulling away, but by gently choosing what truly matters. And even if you can't fully name what's happening, there is a part of you that feels very clear, a quiet part, but a steady one. It doesn't rush you to figure everything out, and it simply stays there, like a quiet reminder that you are stepping into a new phase, a phase where things begin to change from within, long before the outside world reflects it. And maybe, what matters most right now is not finding the answer, but allowing yourself to stay with the feeling, to listen to it, and to trust that, even without full clarity, it is still guiding you forward in your own way. There comes a moment, very subtle, almost easy to miss, when you begin to realize you no longer quite fit into the life you once felt so familiar with. Not because everything changed too quickly, but because something within you has started to move in a different direction. The roles you once carried, the one who always tried to please, the one who kept explaining just to be understood, the one who stayed, even when you were already tired inside, somehow begin to feel a little heavier now. It's not that you reject them, it's just that you can no longer step into those roles without feeling like you're leaving a very real part of yourself behind. And maybe you've started choosing silence in moments where you once would have tried to speak. You take a step back in situations where you once would have leaned in. Not because you no longer care, but because you're learning how to care without losing yourself in the process. This shift isn't here to make you distant. It's simply a quiet reminder that you also deserve to exist in spaces where you don't have to force yourself to fit. And sometimes, that means you no longer connect the way you used to. Some relationships grow quieter, that some conversations don't stretch as long as before. There's no clear ending, just a distance that forms, naturally. And there may be moments when you wonder, am I changing too much? But somewhere deep within, there's a part of you that knows, this is not a loss. This is you, finding your way back to yourself, a version of you that doesn't have to try so hard to be accepted, that doesn't need to reshape itself to belong everywhere. And even though this path may carry a quiet kind of loneliness at times, it also brings something new, a sense of standing steady within your own becoming. And maybe this is what a deeper kind of growth feels like, when you begin choosing to live as your true self, even if it means the world around you starts to shift along with you. And then there comes a moment when you begin to notice that silence no longer carries the same meaning it once did. It no longer feels like a space you have to fill, no longer that uneasy feeling, or the quiet worry that you might be missing something. Instead, silence becomes a place you can rest, a place where you can let your shoulders soften, take a deeper breath, and not have to become anyone else but yourself. Maybe you were once used to keeping everything in motion, always something to say, something to do, something to hold the connection together. But now, you begin to feel more at ease when you don't have to do all of that. The pauses between conversations no longer feel uncomfortable. Messages that aren't answered right away no longer pull your thoughts in every direction. And perhaps you've started to realize not every distance needs to be closed. Some distance exists so you can see more clearly. You begin to understand that being understood is not always necessary. There are parts of you, very personal, very deep, that don't need explanation to have value. And strangely enough, that doesn't make you feel isolated. If anything, it brings a quiet kind of freedom. Freedom from having to prove who you are. Freedom from making others feel comfortable with your truth. You start choosing conversations that carry meaning, instead of words just meant to fill the silence. You choose to be around people who can sit beside you in stillness. And yet, the connection is still there. And if that doesn't happen, you're no longer in a hurry to find it, because somewhere along the way, you found something just as important, a sense of companionship within yourself. There may be moments when you look back and notice you've become quieter, less reactive, less explaining, less trying, and at the same time, you've become clearer. Clear in how you feel, clear in what you choose to keep, and clear in what you gently let go of. Silence now is no longer a sign of distance. It feels more like an open space where you can finally hear yourself more clearly than ever before. And maybe, when you stop trying to fill every empty space, you begin to see that some of the most meaningful things in life can only appear in a little bit of stillness. And then, as things within you begin to settle, something else starts to emerge, very quietly, but becoming clearer with time. You begin to notice signals you once overlooked, not logical thoughts, not long, detailed analysis, but feelings that arrive quickly, almost instantly. You walk into a space and sense that something about the energy doesn't quite feel right. You meet someone and know you should keep a little distance, even if you can't explain why. Or sometimes, you feel a gentle sense of ease, something natural and steady, when you're in the right place or with the right person. These things aren't loud. They don't try to convince you. They simply appear. And if you pause long enough to listen, you begin to realize they've always been there. Maybe in the past, you questioned these feelings, wondered if you were overthinking, or just being too sensitive. But now, you're not so quick to dismiss them. You allow yourself to feel first, and understand later, and there's a subtle shift in that. You no longer need immediate answers in order to trust what you feel. And that doesn't make you uncertain. If anything, it grounds you in a very different way, because you're no longer relying only on what can be explained in words. You begin to lean into something deeper within you, a place that isn't loud, isn't rushed, but remains steady. And the more you listen to that part of yourself, the more you notice you're less easily pulled by everything happening around you. You don't react right away anymore. You observe more, you feel more, you choose more slowly, not because you're hesitating, but because you're learning to move with your own rhythm. Maybe you don't have a name for this yet, but there's a quiet sense of trust starting to take shape, a feeling that you can rely on yourself more than you once did. And maybe what matters most isn't whether you're always right or wrong, but that you're beginning to reconnect with a part of yourself that has always been there, just waiting for you to become still enough to hear it. And then, after all those quiet shifts, you begin to realize you're no longer standing in the same place you once were. There's no clear line, no single moment where you can say, everything changed. It's just that when you look back, you can see you've moved a little further from who you used to be. The things that once defined you, the way you saw yourself, the way you thought you should be, begin to loosen their hold. Not because they were wrong, but because they're no longer the whole story. You begin to let things go layer by layer, the expectations you once carried, the roles you tried so hard to hold, the stories you believed were your true identity. And this process isn't always comfortable. There are moments when it feels like you're standing between two worlds, one that is familiar but no longer fits, and one that feels new, but not fully clear yet. And that space in between can feel unsteady. But if you stay with it long enough, you begin to see. This isn't a loss. It's a kind of rebuilding, happening from within, like a home being renovated from the inside, where old walls need to come down, where space has to open up before something new can take shape. Your new self is forming in the same way. It doesn't appear all at once. It reveals itself slowly, through the moments you choose to stay or walk away, through the way you react less, but understand more, through the things you no longer feel the need to prove. And what's interesting is, this version of you doesn't require so much effort to exist. It doesn't ask you to hold tension in your body. It doesn't ask you to reshape yourself to belong everywhere. It simply allows you to be who you are when you let yourself be that, a lighter version of you. Not because life has become easier, but because you're no longer carrying what was never truly yours. A more honest version. Not because you understand everything, but because you no longer pretend that you do. And in its own quiet way, a more peaceful version too. Even if at times you still feel a sense of being in between. Like you no longer fully belong to who you once were, but haven't completely settled into who you're becoming. But maybe that doesn't mean you're lost. Maybe it's just a transition, a space where you're learning how to meet yourself again for the first time. And if you look closely, you might begin to notice, within all that quiet, a new version of you is slowly taking shape. No need to rush, no need to be perfect. Just be real and keep moving forward in a way that feels true to you. And then, after everything you've been through, you may begin to realize not everything needs to be fully understood from the very beginning. If you're listening to this, and somewhere within you there's a quiet sense of resonance, like a gentle nod that doesn't need words, then maybe you've already felt it. It's not a complete answer, not a clear plan, just a feeling that something within you is shifting in its own unique direction, and that might be enough for now. Some journeys don't begin with certainty. There's no map, no clear instructions, only slow steps, guided more by what you feel than what you can explain. You don't need to rush to define everything. You don't need to understand every layer of this change, because sometimes, simply noticing that you're not the same as before is already a deep kind of awareness. And when you allow yourself to slow down, you begin to hear what was once drowned out, subtle feelings, quiet signals, things that don't need to be spoken, yet still feel true. You don't have to trust every feeling completely, but maybe you can begin to trust that you deserve to listen to yourself more. Not to find immediate answers, but to build a stronger connection from within. And over time, you may start to see that what once felt unclear was quietly guiding you all along. Not in a perfect way, not in a straight line, but in a way that is real, human, and uniquely yours. And if there's one thing you can carry with you after all of this, maybe it's not an answer, but a feeling. The feeling that you are changing, the feeling that you are becoming closer to yourself, and the feeling that, even without full clarity, you are still moving forward. Allow yourself to slow down, just a little, not to stop, but to truly feel each step you take. Because sometimes, the deepest movements in life make no sound at all. They unfold quietly, in a place very still within you. And maybe it's in that very place that a new version of you is becoming clearer, one small moment at a time. A new version of you is becoming clearer, one step at a time. And before you go, if this resonates with you, I'd love to hear your experience. What has been quietly changing in your life lately?